Well done. Puede haber Pakowski. Centra. And Riga
Hi, and welcome to a special crossover episode between the Latvian Football Podcast and the Estonian Football Podcast, where we are going to talk today about the Livonian Winter League, which concluded earlier today with very pleasant results for our side, I should say, and maybe not so much for your guys. But joining me are the Estonian Football Podcast. Welcome, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have this episode together.
Thanks for having us.
And
thank you
for having me. So, what did you think about it?
I was quite genuinely surprised with the difference in strength between the Latvian sides and the Estonian sides. I know it's technically pre-season, it's all to be taken with, a pinch of salt, but the way like RFS just tore through, let's say, our big boys, it was quite humbling in a way.
Yeah, so you didn't expect it to be so different.
I've managed in Latvia on Football Manager. Again, I know it's different, so I kind of knew like the finances were a bit more powerful, and the attraction for foreigners is a bit more better. But I think some of the results, like Paida losing 4-1 and Flora taking a hiding as well. What was that? 6-1 Flora, wasn't it? That was, to me, it was just kind of like a wow, is this really the difference?
I agree. The standard for me was the most standout. Knew RFS were going to be the team that were going to be the team to beat, even in pre-season. But I expected better from all of the Estonian teams. Maybe except Kalev. They're new to being a top team, so to speak. So. Kauju, Paida, Flora expected much more, but they kind of disappointed a little bit.
I'm almost on the other end, because when I was putting together the Livonian Winter League guide, I had to go a little bit more into depth on the stats. And yes, of course, the disclaimer applies. This is preseason. These are friendly games. There's nothing at stake for the clubs, just for the fans, best case scenario. But fine. League A, I kind of thought, RFS probably the strongest team in the Baltics at the moment, so they're probably going to do fine. But then League B, I was fully confident that Estonian clubs are going to tear through the much younger and less experienced Latvian clubs. And then League C, we're digging so deep into the pyramid at this point. It's like the middle of Latvian second tier, and very similar for Estonian, and there anything could happen. And that actually ended up being the one league that Estonians won resoundingly.
Yeah, League B, Tamaka and Kurasa, we have them, so a little sneak peek into our preview, as the bottom two teams in the league this season. So we don't really expect much from them. So for us, it's not surprising to see that they only picked up one win between them, like during this little friendly league. So League C, Norma United, they're much better than most teams. And I think some points they played a very weak team, like so a lot of youth players, but they're kind of predicted to be like a top 6 team this year. So it's not surprising that when they were winning, it was like convincingly. So
I think League B kind of surprised me a bit. Again, I'm not too clued up on Latvian football, but I think Narva were brilliant, and that not just in this tournament, but in general in pre-season, especially with what they've done with their squad, like properly revamped it like they do every year. I thought they were brilliant. So to go and win League B, so to speak, I think it's brilliant. And they're scoring goals as well, which is
they never do.
Yeah, exactly. But for an Estonian point of view, the other three teams in League B, I just think it was disappointing. Again, I'm not too clued up, but maybe Vapris you'd expect to perform a bit better. Kura and Tameka, yeah, like you were saying, they're definitely where you'd expect them to be.
Well, I was reading up a bit on the Estonian teams whilst preparing for the league in January, and yeah, Narva Trans was almost made out to be like a bottom team that no one's really expecting much out of, and yet they are occupying position number 1 with 3 wins, 1 loss, and 11-6 goal difference, which on points is same as Tukums, which is a Virsliga team, but also interestingly Grobinja, which is a team that is freshly promoted to Virsliga this season. So they're technically number 11 in the Latvian pyramid coming into this competition. And I listened to some interviews because everyone is very excited about them getting promoted. So there's lots and lots of media attention. And the head coach said that initially they were supposed to be in League C, but he asked to get moved up because he wanted to use this tournament as an opportunity to prepare. And I think he said something to the effect of, I'll try to quote, that I wanted to have my rear end kicked so that I can learn from this. And then they ended up like 4-1, 4-1 or something like that, just really doing very, very surprisingly well.
I was going to say, overall, how do you feel the Latvian teams did? Like, was it satisfying? Do you feel like they could have done a bit better, or?
Yeah, so I'm very pleasantly surprised with Grobinja for the reasons just mentioned. No surprises with RFS. They did exactly as they ought to have. Really disappointed with Liepaja, but that is becoming a bit of a trend lately. But I guess the one team that I'm the most disappointed in is Daugavpils, who haven't won a single game, and the best they could do is draw once with
Is it Kura?
yeah,
is one of them.
with Tartu Tameka, which is
Yeah.
another team that hasn't won anything, but picked up 2 draws. So Daugavpils, just to remind the listeners, they finished 7th or 8th in the Virsliga, so really they should do better, and it was just a disaster. So that was disappointing. In Group C, I mean, that was just a fun get together for everybody, and it was fun to see teams that we wouldn't normally watch or follow that closely to perform. And the Alberts were a joy to see, and others maybe not so much. Supernova, I mean, you can see why they got relegated. But you know what? Latvian teams aside, what I enjoyed the most was learning about the Estonian teams. That to me is the highlight of this competition. It's not that, well, we won by a slim margin, which really nobody cares. Or that, I got to see RFS in preseason, which normally wouldn't have that opportunity as a supporter of that team to go to the Holland and see them play. Normally they just bugger off to Turkey or something, and no one's the wiser. But learning about the teams up north, you say you're not tremendously familiar with Latvian football, and that goes both ways. We don't really know much about Estonian other than Flora and Levadia maybe. But now I know a lot more, and it's I'm very happy for that.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying as well about Grobinas just coming up and they wanted to go into League B. That would have been interesting to see Noma United in the same position because, again, newly promoted to the Premium League, they absolutely ran away with Virsliga last year. Highly ambitious. They've brought in some decent signings. It would have been cool to see those two go against each other and then kind of see what the level is between those two. Because I'm assuming the majority of the teams, the Latvian teams anyway, are second division in League C.
All of them.
All of them. Yeah, because
Every
it would be
single
the same for the Estonian teams. You've just gone down. Vimpsi, they were in the relegation playoff. Obviously, Levadia in the 21 to Virsliga, and Noma have just come up. So yeah, it would have been cool to see them compete maybe with some more higher end teams, but I suppose that is what it is, isn't it?
I mean, League C is generally well balanced. It's Latvian numbers 10, 12, 13, and 14 versus Estonian 10, 11, 12, and 14. So that is the balanced league, as is League B, generally speaking. It's the League A that is tremendously disbalanced because it's Latvian teams 1, 5, and 6 versus Estonian 1, 3, 4, and 5. So we're not League A is a bit misleading. So saying that Latvian top teams versus Estonian top teams is not really what it's like. It's Latvian top and mid-table teams versus Estonian top teams there.
Because Val Morel was supposed to compete, weren't they? But for why they pulled out, didn't they? Like at the last minute.
Yeah, Valmiera were meant to be there, and they dropped, which is why it's only 3 Latvian teams. Riga never expressed any interest, and because Auda is sort of in cahoots with Riga operationally, then if Riga is out, then Auda is out as well. So numbers 2 and 3 are gone. It's a non-starter, and then number 4, Valmiera, they changed their mind.
Going to what you were saying about it being kind of your best team and then like mid-table teams, do you think that's again a credit to Latvian football that they competed essentially against our best teams?
Well, it's hard to tell again because it's friendlies. I think maybe looking at what the teams were like. And in that sense, RFS and Liepaja, they were in a similar position in that they would rotate wildly. It would be 2 different squads playing 2 different halves of the game. So I think that's a generally decent comparison. Jelgava being a number 6 team, I don't think they even had a large enough squad to do something like that. So with them, we could see that they would sort of play the same-ish, maybe not 11, but maybe 15 or so players. And so I think that's a little bit of a different way of comparing with other teams who would rotate. I think all Estonian teams rotated this, one squad, one half, another squad, another half. And then obviously you kind of get a bit of an advantage as a team that doesn't rotate as much. But in terms of credit, I mean, I spoke to a few people and many were surprised that Latvia didn't do better. I'm not one of the people who thinks so. My opinion of Estonian football is maybe a bit higher than whoever those were, but it's hard to tell. I don't know how to answer that, to be honest.
Do you think overall it was a success
As a competition?
Like as in just generally.
I think it wasn't a failure, right? I enjoyed it tremendously. I actually, in preparation for our recording, I ran a Twitter poll where I asked, what do you think of the Livonian Winter League? And I think something like half of the respondents said that they enjoyed it, and another third said that it could be better. And I think it could be better. So I think it was a bit too long, right? Once the preseason got into its final days and it was just League C playing, I mean, even I lost interest. So there was that. So I think it went a bit for too long. I think the marketing and communication was really poor. Okay, if you read the documentation, you would know what the rules are. But other than that, it's just, I think people would think that whichever team gets the most points, and then through some kind of a playoff or elimination round, you get the winner. But that's not the case. And Estonian broadcasting was great. Had commentators for every game, multiple camera angles. Latvian was, I mean, they might as well have just put a guy with an iPhone there to film it, and there was nothing. There was just ambient sound and maybe some coughing occasionally. that was it. So that's not good,
I read the documentation for it yesterday, actually. So like the whole rules. I think the Estonian FA was actually in charge of it this year. So next year it's the Latvian FA's turn. So maybe they'll make a bit more effort when it comes to the broadcasting side. Who knows?
Yeah, that frightens me a bit because they might, but they might not. In which case, it's going to be worse than this year, and that's not good for a new competition. But I think it was maybe a success also in terms of how it relates to the whole cross-border league conversation that's going on, because there was a piece published in The Guardian about this, and we interviewed the journalist Nick Ames who wrote it, and he actually came to Riga to observe the Livonian Winter League as an example of what something like a cross-border league could look like. And in that sense, a competition such as this maybe could serve as something of a pilot for that concept, which for our countries, I think is pretty important going forward.
I think, like we said about whether it being a success or not, I think my problem with it was that the games felt too far apart. So, like, let's say today's game with Kalju and Liepāja, today, that was the first game in A-League. Well, it was the last game in A-League for what? A week?
No,
Like
more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, a long time. And it was like, obviously only 7 teams in League A, so there was an uneven amount of games. It would be cool, like, if there was, I get it's just friendlies, but if there is like an incentive for, let's say the top 4 from each league, from Latvia, from Estonia, they say, right, your pre-season, this is what you're going to do for pre-season. You finish top 4, winner wins a trophy. It's going to be competitive, maybe some financial gain. Who knows? And then who's to say, like we're talking about the Baltic League, why not, if that becomes a success, then invite the Lithuanians, and make it a 12-man tournament and do it more of a knockout round robin kind of thing. Like, make it more competitive rather than just a few games thrown together and go.
I agree. I think it should be, if not directly cup format, then groups and then knockouts. Many people did ask, where's the Lithuanians, or why were the Lithuanians left out? And of course, that is because of what this competition is about. It's about Livonia, and Lithuania was not part of that. So there's this historical thing that I had to explain over and over again. But I mean, why not expand it? We have the Baltic Cup, which is the oldest international competition, and because you can't really do it with 3 teams, every year there's a guest. Like this year there's what is it, Faroe Islands or something like that. So Lithuania could be a guest to the Livonian League. I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah, I think if you add the knockout round robin sense to it, the neutral was definitely more intrigued by it. If you just do a random league, RFS top League A, now what?
Yeah,
Nothing.
exactly.
Just ended. So like, give them like the incentive to
give them a little trophy and some medals, and
there is a trophy. The trophy exists because Livonian Cup, which is the precursor to this, did run for a few years. Also initiative of the Estonian FA. So there is a trophy of some kind. I have no idea what it looks like, but I do know it exists, allegedly. But I agree. Imagine, like, I don't know, quarterfinals, RFS versus Nome United. And Nome pulls off a win or something. I mean, it still doesn't matter to anyone, really, but it's very exciting.
Yeah, but for us, it's fun. Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But then, for like something like that with Nome United, they've just, you come up and then you're playing against a team like RFS, which for them would be preparation for coming against the Levadias and the Floras. Like, do they really want to be playing against Alberts?
That's a good question. I mean, how did they do against Alberts?
They drew 1-1.
But they did
So-
play. I think that was the second team they used.
Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Alberts is not too bad for them. That's the
Yeah.
outcome. But no, fair point. I mean, it's really a fair point, and I think this competition was maybe really good for the like bottom of B and all of C, because they got this structured kind of a friendly load with teams from another country, since by the rules you couldn't play teams from your own country, so it would always be an international friendly. I think that's probably really cool for those, well, kids basically, to have that experience.
Kind of like a Nations League kind of format.
Exactly. That's what I thought it was going to be initially, until I read the rules.
Yeah, when I read the rules yesterday, I was a bit disappointed with. So obviously next year it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, isn't it? So 1, 2, 3, 4 is going to be in League A, 5, 6, 7, 8 would be in League B, and then 9, 10, and then 1 and 2 from the next division would be in League C. So it's,
Yeah.
I'd like to see the incentive that you can go up and down and that kind of thing. It'd definitely make it more.
Yeah, or a cup tournament.
Or a cup, yeah.
I suppose if you're going for a up and down kind of thing, would you then like how would you regulate that? Because if you're doing it like now, say League C, you've got Vimpsy who are in it this year for finishing second in Virsliga. What happens if they finish fifth in Virsliga this year or something like that? And someone like
They don't get in it.
yeah, but then if they've
Oh,
won
I see
League
what you mean.
C,
Yeah,
they go up.
yeah, I see what you mean.
But then
yeah.
you've got some random team, let's say, I don't know, Pied under 21s win Virsliga, but they can't go in that now because Vimpsy won League C. Like, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, just throwing stuff around. But
No, I mean, it's a valid concern, and I think the way to do that is that if this inaugural season was then the kind of benchmark season, and then we pick up where we left off, and then if any new teams enter, they enter at Group C. But in essence, it then becomes disconnected from domestic championships, and that's probably not where either Latvian or Estonian football federations want to take it. So I mean, I think this is fine. Hedge it to the tournament, but there needs to be some more risk to it.
yeah, as I say, I just feel like, again, despite it being pre-season, there just needs a more competitiveness to it. You know, like how you see like the Emirates Cup, for example, and like all these weird tournaments these Premier League teams go in like Asia and the States, and there's just an incentive to win it, so to speak. They get a nice medal. They get, I don't know. That's my opinion. Yeah,
Well, they get a lot of money out of it, so that's the incentive.
I'm sure they do. Yeah,
That's
But you get
not
some-
quite the case here.
I mean, a little prize fund would be, it doesn't have to be millions and millions, but they give the players like €100 or something, just something small. So it doesn't need to be. I'm sure the players will appreciate it. It's a couple of beers and stuff, isn't it? So yeah, just something small like that. They might try a bit.
I think for like Riga FC, if they participate, players who earns allegedly in the ballpark of 30K a month, €100 is probably
Yeah, nothing to him. Yeah.
yeah. But for Alberts or Vims, maybe
That's nuts. That's what, £7,500 a week. Like €30,000 a month for one player. Like Kura says budget for the year is rumored to be 50,000 just for the year.
no, Riga
And,
FC are outrageous and
Yeah.
absolutely not a median for anything, but just taking it the extreme end. Arafat's fine. It's
Yeah.
like half that, but still,
Yeah, it's just bonkers, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
even. But then saying that, when I managed Riga on Football Manager, I was having players on 10, 15 grand a week. That's
Yeah.
just how it was. Run them into the ground, get to
Yeah.
the Champions League, get some money. do it again.
Well, I mean, and then compare that to the Premier League salaries.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
silly.
Yeah,
It's a different world. No, but then it's like, do you remember when we were like with Martin Kaus, and he was saying that like if he scores, his dad gives him money as like a like a bonus, and it's like could you imagine like if Haaland scores a goal, his dad just gives him 50 quid? Like this is why like I like these leagues. They just it's just normal people.
Yeah, exactly. With the exception of the very top teams who are, actual professional players, B League and down is just people playing football for the passion of playing football, and it would be great if they could earn more. And we are losing many talented players because they can't. Just this year, for instance, looking at some of the Latvian youngsters who played in Virsliga a little bit last year, suddenly like 3 or 4 of them became real estate agents. I mean,
come
on. If you're playing at that level, you should be able to, support yourself to a decent extent.
You get the same in Estonia. You just get players randomly retiring at like 23, 24 because they'll just go work in IT or, like what you were saying, go work in real estate. Or Albert Prosser did it, didn't he? He was scoring what is one of the highest scoring players in Premium League history. And
Premium League,
yeah, and he just randomly retired, started playing in the lower leagues to sell houses. And it's just a normal guy, but he's really good at football.
What was your maybe, I don't know, favorite memory from this competition?
I think the fact that it's new to us. So like obviously it happened years ago, but this was way before we even considered looking at Estonian football and Latvian football. So yeah, I like the idea. I like the idea that it's got the potential to actually be something. So something else to look forward to during like the preseason and that stuff. Seeing how the teams compete, the standards, where teams can improve. I think that for me is what I enjoyed.
Yeah, I think it's to do with like, so for now for next year, all through this year, I'll be keeping an eye on the Latvian league, from seeing who's in what positions and seeing who of our teams will be facing what teams next year. Just a new league.
Did you pick up maybe a Latvian team that I don't know you like now in some way?
Alberts.
Do you know what? I was looking at Jelgava just because I really like their badge. Was it like a moose with a football or something?
It's the moose with the football.
Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Their kit is brilliant. It's top notch. It's just something about the color and just all of it. I love it. It's so good.
I think they followed us on Twitter. Yeah, so there you go. There's the team. Alberts and Jelgava.
But it's also because, like, again, going back to Football Manager, I look at some of it. So, like, Tukums, for example, I used to pump them 7-8-0 all the time. So it's like quite surprising to see them where they were in the B League. But I quite like Tukums, but I'll say Jelgava, yeah.
Tukums, you winning them 7-8-0 in Football Manager is actually very realistic if you look at the results.
I think that's who I watched when I was out in Riga, wasn't it? Yeah. Tukums. Because it should have ended like 6 or 7-0 if the strikers were a bit better, but it was just one of those games, wasn't it?
Yeah, it ended 1-0, but the thing with Tukums is that it's not that they're bad in any kind of a fundamental sense. It's just they are hell-bent on only playing attacking football, and they will keep going and they will keep going at you, which is also the reason why they're scoring many goals and why they scored many goals in this competition. But the downside of that is if you're playing against a team that doesn't care about you running at them for 90 minutes and can attack, in their own right, you're just going to end up losing 6, 7, 8, even 10-0. And they're happy with that. That's just how they roll. And that's Tukums. Some people enjoy that, and I can see why. I personally find it a little bit frustrating, but there we go.
Are they the Latvian Brighton?
If I knew enough about Brighton, I would be able to say yes, but I do not.
Well, they basically get praised for, if they win 4-0, they get praised. If they lose 4-0, they get praised, because it's, I don't know, what's the, this new tactical thing that everyone's praising. The manager's a tactical genius despite getting stomped 4-0 because it's his style.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case with Tukums, but I mean, that's just their philosophy. And it's good for developing young players because they're not constrained to a defensive system where they park the bus. They can actually show something off. But that's Tukums, yeah. I really enjoyed your guys' team. So I went to see a few games live. Mainly RFS games. But anyway, so I saw RFS versus Kalev. I saw RFS versus Paide. And I think and Kalju also, right? It was 3 games in Riga. It's just Flora that was away. Paide seemed impressive. They seemed like a really stiff team in a good sense, that they really put up a challenge. And Kalev, I just really enjoyed, I don't know, something about the team and the vibe. The guys were energetic and they were running and they were fighting. And even though it ended up heavily in RFS favor, most of that came in the second half. So I'll definitely be keeping an eye on those two.
Yeah, Paide are, I say a lot of people, us too. We think they may be one of the challengers for the title this year. Flora obviously in their rebuild. But Paide, with the head coach, with the signings, they will go close to the title, definitely. And Kalev, like I say, they've just got that don't give up attitude. It's, it stems from when they're in Virsliga, they came up, they survived, they got 3rd place. It's, yeah, like you're saying, the vibe, it's the whole club. It's just a great club, and hopefully they can continue on and keep pushing on. And they are a good club. Great set of guys there as well.
They're gonna do their European debut this season also, right?
They are.
Yeah,
Really interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's hopefully they draw a team that we can get to quite easily, and not some back arse end in Kazakhstan or something like that. I'm hoping Luxembourg or something. Kazakhstan would be cool, but it's taking the time off work, isn't it? And spending 3 days getting there.
We'll see. I mean, in either way, it's exciting to have a team play in Europe for the first time and hopefully do well. We had that with Auda last year, and they did not disappoint, even though the bar was, just don't embarrass us. And they didn't. They even scored some goals.
So it was the same with Paide. A couple of years ago, it was their first time in Europe. They think they got like 1 round away from getting to the group stage of the Conference League. So
really, wow.
Or one or two. They beat 2 teams. They did well, and then it gave everyone hope that when they get into Europe, it gives you that groundwork to push on. But then last year it was like a complete disaster for everyone involved. So yeah, hopefully this year they'll be a bit better.
Conference League is such a coin toss unless you're going through the Champions League path. I mean, it can be just anything.
Yeah, when Flora got there, they'd done it to say it was through the Champions League path, and they got quite lucky. It was they beat whoever it was in that round, and then lost, and then got to the Europa League one, then lost, and then it was just like beat this team and you're in. And it was it Shamrock?
Shamrock
Was it
Rovers.
beating
Yeah.
Shamrock, and they beat Shamrock Rovers. It was amazing. It was brilliant. And again, it was one of those things where push on, and then nope, we're not going to do that. And it was because they even put up a good showing, wasn't it? They didn't embarrass themselves. They fought.
Yeah, they even got a win. Yeah.
RFS got into the group stage also via the Champions Path. And so hopefully again this year.
It'll be good to see.
It would.
Yeah, it'd be good to see like someone representing the Baltics, because it's a good weekend away as well for fans, and yeah, but who knows? Hopefully.
Yeah. Hey, what do you guys think about this whole? And I don't know your level of familiarity with this, but obviously the Baltic League is being pushed heavily now by the Latvian Virsliga, and Lithuanians seem kind of ambivalent, but the Football Association is not really jumping on board super eagerly. But the Estonian Football Association just went, and they're just saying no way, over my dead body, not gonna happen. What do you think of that?
Let's put it like so that the head of the Estonian Football Association, Ivar Polak, as Brent Lepestu said, he is a dictator. I think he is fully against it purely because he then loses the power. It's taken away from him. Let's remember that he is pretty much the founder of Flora. Most of the money goes to Flora. They have their sister team, let's speak, Curacao, who Flora loan all their players to, which are also owned by the Polacks. The Alacock Arena, for example, was like a weird story of it was going to be like loaned to Flora or something they paid, then all of a sudden it all got wiped. Oh no, don't worry about it, kind of thing. So no longer paying it. It's now your stadium, which was all paid for, and all that. It's a power thing, I think. If it all joins together, someone's going to have to take charge, and I feel like they wouldn't want it to be him, and he wouldn't want that. He he's got everything in his hands in Estonia.
So you think that argument that is officially the argument, which is that Estonian teams will not be able to compete in the short term with the financial capabilities of Latvian and Lithuanian clubs in terms of attracting foreign players, that's just a bunch of hot air and excuses?
I think if finances were spread evenly amongst the clubs, then they could compete in that way. But when, a lot of the investment goes towards Flora, how can you compete?
You talk to like players and coaches off camera, and and you ask for their personal opinion on it all, and they won't say this on camera because they'll be blackballed. But off camera, this all the same. This is all a load of crap. Flora is the team, the national team. It's Flora. Ivar Polak picks the national team. So if you score 100 league goals for Narva Trans, you're not getting in the Estonia team because you don't play for Flora. So it's one of those sort of Polak. He does everything. So yeah, it's kind of like his child, and you can't take it away from him. And he doesn't want to let this child go and grow and go out into the real world and progress and make their own decisions and all that stuff. Everything's got to go through him, and yeah, so there's no money for anyone. The infrastructure shit, as you've probably potentially seen. So yeah, nothing changes whilst he's there. So however long he lasts, the Baltic League won't exist or anything like this whilst he's in charge. So yeah.
Or it won't exist with Estonia in it, because it seems that there's a path ahead with just Latvia and Lithuania, which would arguably make it more authentically a Baltic League. But no, I mean, I didn't really buy the competitiveness argument, because if the Livonian League showed anything, is that the gap is not that great. Again, obviously, friendlies, not competitive games, and blah blah blah. That's all understood, but it's not like Latvian teams won just no contest, not at all. The strongest group is just a 6-point difference, and that's a shame, because that kind of, to me, shows that we could have a really really nicely interesting competitive half-season competition, where you have these teams from Latvia and Estonia, and then Lithuanian iconic teams, creating something that's really, really worth watching.
Yeah, but then again, you could even like saying it for this winter league kind of thing. Why not trial it during the winter as as your friendlies start off in mid-January, go until the end of February, and just have a game a week. Just do it like a 5 or 6 game little tournament and trial it that way. What's wrong with that?
Well, because it's friendlies. What we talked in the beginning, there's no incentive to actually compete, to pay for decent quality broadcasting, to, it's in January, so it's going to be in halls. It's just not, it's not serious. It's indoor football, which is great to the extent what, we have it. But it's, I think it's a good prototype to gauge what something kind of like that would look like, but it's not anywhere near what the real thing could be, I think.
And if you go back to Estonia not coming into it, I do also think if there was like some really big financial gain for Polak, he'd soon change his tone. But I think
we don't do that anymore. That's some 90s era stuff. No.
Yeah, but something like that, I think would lead him in. It's a no-go for Estonia. And I also think the fans are semi against it as well. Especially like if you've got Narva, for example, who are right on the eastern border. For them to travel to, let's say, Lithuania, it's a hell of a long way to go. And for a team like Narva as well, who aren't exactly financially sound, is there going to be reimbursements for travel? Is there going to be, what's the incentive for someone like Narva to go in? The big boys, yeah, maybe they want to jump at it, but the smaller teams, what's the incentive?
The first question is, would Narva get in? That's one. Because it's top 4 teams as per current design. Anyway.
So no, they wouldn't.
but assuming they do, because by week 18, they make a push for it, and they maybe get lucky or whatever, and then Narva gets in, and then like Daugavpils gets in, and whatever is the equivalent in Lithuania, I don't even know. Well, yeah, that's a valid concern. And in our interview with Nick from The Guardian, he said that for the first few years, UEFA should pay for that as a trial project until this market that everyone is advertising will develop. But then, okay, fine. Fans don't want to go across the Baltics, but isn't it cool that like a Vilnius Žalgiris comes to Narva to play, or RFS comes to Narva? I mean, you don't have to travel. I think England is not really an away fan culture country either, isn't it?
They like to fake it. Definitely, you get a Stone Island on and like that kind of thing. But you may have seen it. You're in a group chat, but you may have seen it with like some of the guys in there going, we got 2 Parnu away days and stuff, like, and they get excited by that. But like going to like what you were saying, like, yeah, imagine Vilnius away or Riga away.
Yeah.
Be great. New city. It'd be cool. I'd say I think it'd be cool. I do like the Premium League as it is, but I do think maybe a separate thing with an incentive. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if we get anywhere, but this is a good start. It's a good appetizer, I think. The Livonian Winter League.
It was good. I enjoyed it. So it was, yeah, as you said, like as it was a bit too long. As it went on, you're kind of like, what? You're kind of. I was looking on the calendar to see when the next game was, and sometimes I'm like going days and days and days. But yeah, it was a bit too long, but they'll learn from it. I thought it was pretty good.
And your league's also on YouTube, isn't it?
No.
No?
So you can watch Virsliga either on OneFootball app.
I've just cancelled my 99p a month subscription because I never used it. I'm gonna have to get it back.
But I don't think you need it. I'm
No?
unsure because
Oh.
obviously I can't watch it since I'm geo-blocked from watching Virsliga on OneFootball. And whenever next time I'll travel, I'll try to remember. But I'm not sure if you need a subscription for that.
Oh, right.
Or if you're in the Baltic states, you can just watch it on, our version of online sports public channel, whatever. Or if you're outside, you're going to need to VPN yourself here. And then you also get commentary in the language that maybe you don't speak. So that's also fun. But no, I mean, YouTube is great that Estonian League is there. I think it's removing this barrier. But at the same time, I do see advantages on why Virsliga is doing the OneFootball instead of YouTube. And we did this series in the preseason, which is where I spoke to people who follow Virsliga, but they're not from Latvia or Latvians or anything like that. And to a man and woman, they all discovered the competition through OneFootball app. So, I mean, clearly that's working.
Yeah, I say because when you go on the OneFootball app, obviously it shows you exactly what's on that day, and
I think
with YouTube, if you want to watch Premium League of Football, you've got to search it. It's not just going to randomly appear.
Exactly. Yeah. You need to
that's
subscribe.
what I was about to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get things suggested to you and stuff, but the Estonian League's never going to be. By the way, are you interested in watching Tammeka versus whoever? Like, it's never going to come up. So it's good that it's on there, but yeah, if you're not familiar with that, you're never going to find it.
But the Livonian Winter League was all YouTube broadcast, and I tried to at least open as many games as I could to support with likes and maybe put something in the chats like, hey, insert name of Latvian team, let's go, stuff like that. And okay, majority of games, couple of hundred people watching, it seems. But then the big ones like RFS Flora, or well, I suppose that's the biggest one. There was like almost 1,000 people on that broadcast.
Yeah, you find it with some of the Premium League games as well. Yeah, 700-800 people. But I find the majority of it is people gambling on it.
That's bizarre. And
yeah, and they're just watching it. And did you see the comments? Just saying one more goal,
yeah.
please.
Over 2.5 goals, over 2.5. Yeah.
With the occasional,
it's fixed. Yeah.
With the occasional go Besiktas or something like that as well. Some random thing that just makes no sense.
Yeah, that's a bit repulsive, but I mean, people follow football for that also. So I mean, I guess, and most of the sponsors for these things are betting companies. So point is there is attraction. So let's stay at that level.
Yes.
Yes. Definitely.
Right, guys. Well, I think that's probably good enough for the Livonian Winter League 2024. I feel like we've covered it from a range of angles and levels. And good luck to you covering and doing the excellent work that you're doing, which of course inspired me to start this podcast. Doing great stuff, and good luck to you in the upcoming season. And if you're traveling through Riga, which, knowing that the amount of trouble you had flying in last time, maybe is the way to go.
I think we've already discussed that, haven't we?
Yeah.
We're going to fly into Riga next time. Yeah.
Yeah, fucking bollocks. Yeah.
This was fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for all you do as well, because we were looking for a Latvian. As I said it to you when I saw you in Riga last time I was there. Yeah, we were looking for a Latvian podcast, and then one appeared. So, yeah, keep it up.